What's up, folks? I'm Chris, your MLB manager here at OccupyFantasy.com, here with a look at the big slate on Friday, April 15th on DraftKings, FanDuel, and Yahoo across Major League Baseball. We have 11 games starting at 7:05 p.m. A lot of different options to consider. As you know by now, we like to start by looking at the starting pitcher to begin how we want to attack a slate of games. There's a lot of good options tonight. The first one is an Occupy favorite, Freddie Peralta, number one in our model. Right behind him, we have Carlos Rodon, the San Francisco Giants, Jordan Montgomery with the New York Yankees, Dylan Cease with the Chicago White Sox behind him as well. Now, at first glance, you would think these are the four guys you should try to build your lineups with, but there are a lot of expensive hitters we want to get into our lineups tonight as well, so we're going to have to make some choices and start ruling guys out. I like to look at our stacks dashboard as well. And in our stacks dashboard, we can get a degree of consensus between the matchup that a pitcher has and how high they rank in our pitcher model. You see, our worst lineup that we project by our custom Occupy Fantasy Index tonight is the St. Louis Cardinals. Now, the pitcher facing the St. Louis Cardinals is Milwaukee's Freddy Peralta. Peralta averaged over 1.3 strikeouts per innings pitched last season. You see, we project him right around there for 1.33 this evening at the top of the model. Now, who's the second worst team in our offensive dashboard? The white-hot Cleveland Indians. Carlos Rodon is facing the Cleveland Indians, so it does seem like our top two pitching options are actually really good places to start this evening on both FanDuel and DraftKings. So we want to make sure that we have some exposure to them in our lineups tonight. Jordan Montgomery with the New York Yankees. A little lower on strikeout expectation in terms of what he did last year, just a little over one strikeout per innings pitched. We project him for closer to 1.2 this evening. That's because he's facing the Baltimore Orioles. The Orioles rank a little higher in our model by OF Index and by projected power against Montgomery tonight, but this is a lineup that strikes out at the highest rate in baseball on the young season. They struck out at a very high rate last year as well. Definitely want to consider Jordan Montgomery. Now, I'll look at our stacks while we're here. The Dodgers, the Rockies, the Yankees, the Cubs. Both sides of the Coors Field game there, the Cubs at the Rockies. The Dodgers are expensive. The Yankees are expensive. We're going to need some value arms to try and get some of the best lineups in baseball tonight. So these three guys I've discussed so far are not necessarily at that level for you. How can we identify some low-price pitchers that we can include in our lineups tonight? Again, the most projectable thing in fantasy baseball is how often a pitcher is going to strike out his opponents. So let's take our strikeout per innings pitch projection and let's adjust our bottom slider up to about 0.9, guys that are going to get us just under a strikeout per innings pitched. You see our top options are still here. Dylan Cease with the White Sox facing the Rays in here as well, just under a strikeout per innings pitched. Our projection is a lot lower than what Cease did last season. He too averaged right around 1.3 strikeouts per innings pitched across the full season in 2021. We have him for just under one tonight against a pretty tough Tampa Bay Rays lineup that ranks a little lower in our model by OF Index, but actually does have some decent power upside. They look to be inside the top 10 tonight in the model, so that means Cease has a decent high-risk opportunity tonight. Wouldn't use him in the low-risk lineups. Now we get into the good stuff. We have some cheap options that we can consider. Reed Detmers with the Los Angeles Angels projects for over 1.4 strikeout per innings pitched tonight. That is the highest in our entire model. Probably high risk only because he's facing the Texas Rangers, who are our sixth favorite stack on the night. We bumped this down a little bit. We have another set of options we can consider. Zach Plesac with the Cleveland Indians. On the other side of that matchup with Carlos Rodon, he is facing the San Francisco Giants, who project right below Baltimore by OF Index. Pretty low in terms of the expected weighted on base average that we have in this matchup. And their Vegas implied team total is right in the middle of the pack tonight, and the total is decreasing. So Plesac could be another interesting cheap option. Last season, he wasn't the most strikeout-heavy pitcher. He averaged 0.7 strikeouts per inning pitched, 6.3 K9. So not necessarily a ton of upside there, but maybe a safe, so to speak, secondary pitcher option you can include in your lineups. Not going to get away from pitchers without talking about the value play of the night. And we don't project him for a ton of strikeouts, have him at just 0.87, but it's Mackenzie Gore with the San Diego Padres. Gore is making his debut in Major League Baseball. He began the year in AAA, went 5 innings, five shutout innings, only allowed 2 hits, got 7 strikeouts for the Padres AAA affiliate. Now being called up for a start against the defending World Series champion Braves. he is just $5,000. So we get Gore into our lineups here, and it leaves us with a lot of dollars to jam in. Let's say our top pitcher, which is Freddie Peralta tonight. 43.75 per player is quite a bit to work with to make something happen tonight. So Mackenzie Gore, we don't really have the strongest read on his situation. He should be stretched out. Again, he went 5 innings last game in AAA, so he should be given a longer leash tonight against the Braves. I'm going to begin most of my lineups tonight with Freddie Peralta. I don't tend to deviate too much from our top pitcher option that we have. So let's start there. Like Peralta in all formats tonight. And going back over to our top stacks, I do love the Dodgers tonight. Dodgers are facing Cincinnati right-hander Vladimir Gutierrez. Gutierrez, a pretty poor performer last season, allowed a lot of hard contact to hitters from both sides of the plate, but was particularly susceptible to hard contact against left-handed hitters. We have a handful of Dodger left-handed hitters that our model also ranks near the top this evening. First of which is obviously their offseason acquisition, Freddie Freeman. Max Muncy hits from the left side of the plate. Cody Bellinger hits from the left side of the plate. Gavin Lux hits from the left side of the plate. Each of these guys have an opportunity to have an outsized performance against Gutierrez, given what he has historically allowed to happen when he's facing left-handed pitching. Now, looking at the top Dodger options, a lot of these guys are expensive, so you're probably going to have to end up making a choice here on who to exclude. But let's try and build a lineup and see what we land on. So I'm going to try to get all of these lefties in there for sure. I want to get Freddie Freeman, Max Muncy. I want Bellinger as a nice value play tonight. So we got those guys in there. Our other top Dodgers were Mookie Betts and this catcher, Will Smith. So let's do that. Let's plug those guys in and see what we have to work with. We actually have $45.50 per player remaining, and if we do plug in a value arm like Mackenzie Gore, Reed Detmers, Zach Plesac with a top arm like Peralta, or even Carlos Rodon if you prefer a different top pitcher, you've got a lot of room to work with to build out the rest of your lineups tonight. And over on FanDuel, you see I've actually populated my lineup with this as well. Peralta at pitcher and 4 of the top Dodger hitters in our model. Leaves us with $29.75 per player remaining. Plenty of room to build out a viable lineup on this main slate. Now, there are 22 teams to consider, so I'm obviously focused on just the top option here with the Dodgers in our model. I do trust our model. I do try to follow it and play the top plays as we have them. But there are plenty of paths to success tonight, and our model has highlighted a few of them here. We see that Colorado here is the second favorite option by our Occupy Fantasy Index, but they're not necessarily getting a lot of love by projected isolated slugging and weighted on base average tonight. Decent implied team total in Vegas betting markets means they probably will be decently rostered across all formats and contests tonight, but there's a lot of downside risk here based off of that ranking. Chicago Cubs, who we rank 4th, are in a little bit of a similar situation. 4th by OF Index on the main slate. Decent implied team total as the underdog at Coors, but we have a lower isolated slugging and a lower weighted on base average projected for them tonight. Now, why exactly is that? We don't necessarily rank these arms super highly tonight, but I would say the reason for those projections are German Marquez and Marcus Stroman. So let's just focus on those two guys for Colorado and Chicago, are good veteran major league pitchers. And our model is taking into account their historic performance against hitters from both sides of the plate, how they've limited power upside, how they've limited runners getting on base. And it's telling us that there is significant risk with Cubs and Rockies hitters tonight because these guys are the pitchers on the mound. So the Coors Field game is always a popular game in DFS, but tonight it is probably much more high risk than normal given the quality of the arms that are on the mound. The Yankees, being the 3rd highest ranked stack in our model this evening, have very strong numbers across the board. High isolated slugging, high weighted on base average, and the highest team total on the board. So tonight, personally, I do like the Yankees and the Dodgers the best for primary stacks, or maybe even just building lineups with those two teams together on DraftKings and FanDuel. We have found on these big slates, by the way, that it makes sense to just fully correlate. So on FanDuel, that means playing 4 hitters from both teams, from 2 teams in your lineups. Make sure you want to get those guys in there. On DraftKings, build some 5-3s. 5 players from a primary stack, 3 players from another one. Me personally, I think this is a good night to consider rostering the Yankees and the Dodgers together. That's going to do it for this video. We're going to be talking about MLB DFS in our Discord throughout the rest of the day. So if you have any questions, you want to make sure you get in there. There's a link to join our Discord below the description of the video, and we will talk to you on Monday for more MLB DFS.